Dr. Hyunwoo Kim could not believe what he was seeing on his computer screen. The numbers made no sense at all. He looked at the alien doctor standing next to him and saw the same confused expression on his face. Vextar was a tall blue creature with 4 eyes and long, thin arms. He had been studying different species for over 50 years. He had never seen anything like this before. His mandibles clicked together as he tried to understand the data. The human blood sample showed something impossible. The body chemistry had changed completely in just 2 seconds, from normal human levels to something that should not exist in nature. Hyunwoo rubbed his tired eyes. He had been working for 12 hours straight, trying to figure out what happened. During the pirate attack, the space station was finally safe, but the mystery was just beginning. Earlier that day, everything had been normal. The research team was doing their usual work studying different alien plants and animals. The humans on the team were relaxed and friendly. They joked with each other and shared stories about their home planet. Earth Sujin Park was the pilot of their small transport ship. She was a quiet woman who loved flying through space more than anything else. She spent most of her time in the pilot room checking navigation charts and talking to other ships. When the attack started, Sujin was reading a book about ancient Earth history. She had her feet up on the control panel and was drinking hot tea. The book was about old warriors from Korea, but she was reading it just for fun. The first explosion shook the entire station. Sujin dropped her teacup and it crashed to the floor. The hot liquid splashed everywhere, but she did not notice she was already moving toward the emergency controls. Vextar had been watching the security cameras during the attack. He saw something that made no sense to his alien mind. The humans changed in a way that seemed impossible. When the alarm started ringing, Sujin stopped being the quiet pilot who loved books. She became something else entirely. Her whole body changed in less than 3 seconds. Her eyes became wider and more focused. Her breathing became deeper and more controlled. She moved toward the weapon storage with steps that were smooth and fast. She had never used the big plasma rifles before, but she picked one up like she had been born with it in her hands. Her movements were fluid, like water flowing down a mountain. The biomonitors that tracked her health showed incredible changes. Her heart was beating faster but in a steady rhythm. Her blood pressure went up but stayed stable. Her brain activity increased in areas that controlled movement and fighting. Most amazing of all, her body started making chemicals that did not exist in any other known species. These chemicals made her stronger, faster, and more aware of everything around her. They also made her feel no fear at all. Vextar had studied combat in many different species. Some aliens were naturally strong. Others were fast. Some could see in the dark or had thick armor that protected them, but none of them could change their body chemistry instantly when threatened. The security footage showed Sujin moving through the station corridors like a trained soldier. She held the heavy plasma rifle as if it weighed nothing. She checked corners and doorways with the skill of someone who had been fighting for years. When she encountered the first pirates, she did not hesitate or panic. The alien attackers were big and scary with natural weapons and thick skin, but Sujin moved around them like they were standing still. Her first shot hit the pirate leader right in the center of his chest. The second shot disabled their communication equipment. The third shot destroyed their main weapon. All 3 shots were perfect, even though she had never fired that type of gun before. Other humans on the station showed the same transformation. Min-Ho Lee was a young man who fixed broken equipment. He was shy and quiet and avoided fights whenever possible. But when the pirates threatened his friends, he became someone completely different. His body produced the same mystery chemicals. His strength increased, his reflexes became faster, and his mind focused on only one thing: protecting the people he cared about. He used his knowledge of the station systems to trap the pirates in corridors and cut off their escape routes. Dr. Yoon Seo was an older woman who studied alien biology. She had spent her whole life learning about peaceful creatures from different worlds. She had never hurt anything in her life. But when the pirates grabbed one of the younger researchers, she moved with deadly purpose. She used a simple metal tool to disable 2 armed pirates. The way she moved was graceful and efficient, like she had trained for combat her entire life. Her body chemistry showed the same impossible changes as the other humans after the attack was over and the pirates were captured or had fled, Vextar began studying what had happened. He could not understand how peaceful researchers had defeated professional fighters. The pirates were experienced warriors who had successfully attacked many other stations. The blood samples from the humans showed chemical compounds that science had never documented before. These chemicals seemed to unlock hidden abilities in the human body. They made ordinary people into extraordinary fighters. Hyun-woo tried to explain what he thought was happening, but even he was not completely sure. Earth was known throughout the galaxy as a death world. It was a planet where everything was trying to kill everything else. Deadly storms, hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions happened regularly. Animals on Earth were incredibly dangerous. There were creatures with poisoned teeth, others with crushing strength, and some that could kill with their bare hands or claws. Even the plants on Earth could be deadly to touch or eat. Humans had evolved. On this dangerous world for millions of years, their bodies had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most other species. They developed the ability to change instantly when faced with threats. The chemical transformation was like an emergency system built into every human body. When danger appeared, the body would flood itself with powerful compounds that enhanced every physical ability. Strength, speed, reflexes, awareness, pain, tolerance, and coordination all improved dramatically. The transformation also affected the mind, making humans more focused, more determined, and completely fearless. What made this even more remarkable was that the transformation happened automatically. Humans did not have to think about it or choose to activate it. Their bodies sensed danger and responded instantly without any conscious control. Vextar looked at the data one more time. He was beginning to understand that humans were not just another peaceful species. They were survivors who had earned their place in the galaxy through millions of years of constant struggle. The discovery would change everything. The galaxy thought humans were weak because they came from a small planet and seemed gentle and friendly. But now, it was clear that humans could become incredibly dangerous when they needed to protect themselves or others. As Hyun-woo saved the research data to send to the Galactic Council, he wondered what would happen next. The other species in the galaxy would want to understand this human ability. Some would be curious, others might be frightened, and a few might see it as something they could use for their own purposes. The transformation that had saved their lives during the pirate attack was about to transform how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. The news about human combat abilities spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within 3 days, every major species had heard about the impossible transformation that happened during the pirate attack. Most alien leaders did not believe. The report's ambassador, Kelthron, was the most vocal doubter. He represented the hegemony, which was one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. He had fought in dozens of wars and commanded fleets that conquered entire star systems. When he received the report about humans releasing combat chemicals instantly, he laughed out loud. The idea that a peaceful species could suddenly become dangerous warriors seemed ridiculous to him. Kelthron had met humans before. They seemed nice enough, but they were small and weak compared to his own people. They talked about art and science and philosophy. They did not carry weapons or show any signs of military training. The Hegemony Military Council decided to send Kelthron to the research station to investigate the claims. They wanted to know if humans really had hidden abilities or if the reports were just exaggerated stories. Kelthron arrived at the station with a full diplomatic escort. He brought military advisors, scientists, and recording equipment. He was determined to prove that humans were not special and that the pirate attack had been won through luck, not supernatural abilities. Hyun-woo met the ambassador at the docking bay. He could see the skeptical expression on Kelthron's face. The alien was tall and muscular with natural armor plating and forearms. He looked like he had been born for warfare. The ambassador made it clear that he expected to be disappointed. He had come all this way to investigate what he believed was a waste of time. He wanted to get the demonstration over with quickly so he could return to more important matters. The testing facility was a large room with white walls and bright lights. Various alien dignitaries had gathered to watch the demonstration. They represented different species from across the galaxy. Some were curious, others were skeptical, and a few seemed worried. Min-ho Lee had volunteered to be the test subject. He was 25 years old and worked as a maintenance engineer on the station. He spent his days fixing broken equipment and had never been in a fight in his entire life. Minho was nervous about being watched by so many important aliens, but he wanted to help prove that humans were not lying about their abilities. He stood in the center of the room wearing simple work clothes and looking very ordinary. Ambassador Kelthran studied Minho carefully. The human was shorter than most adults from his species. He had no visible weapons or armor. He looked like exactly what he claimed to be a simple worker who fixed things. The ambassador turned to Dr. Hyunwoo and shook his head. This was supposed to be their warrior. This was the being who could supposedly transform into a dangerous fighter. The whole thing seemed like an elaborate joke. Dr. Hyunwoo had prepared carefully for this demonstration. He knew that the galaxy's future relationship with humanity might depend on what happened in this room. The biomonitoring equipment was set, up to record every detail of Minho's transformation. The test began with simple scenarios. Training drones entered the room moving slowly and non-threateningly. They were programmed to avoid contact and pose no real danger. Minho watched them with mild interest but showed no signs of stress. His vital signs remained completely normal. His heart rate was steady. His breathing was relaxed, and his brain activity showed no unusual patterns. He chatted casually with the other humans in the room, asking about their work and making small jokes. Ambassador Kelthran watched the biomonitors with growing confidence. The readings showed exactly what he expected, a normal, peaceful being with no special abilities. The human was reacting to the drones, the same way any civilian would. Then Dr. Hyunwoo gave the signal to change the scenario. The lights in the room dimmed to simulate an emergency situation. The training drones activated their intimidation protocols and began moving aggressively toward Minho. The change was so sudden and dramatic that several aliens gasped out loud. One moment Minho was a relaxed young man making conversation. The next moment he was something completely different. His body went rigid for exactly 1 second, as if every muscle had tensed at the same time. Then he relaxed into a stance that radiated controlled power. His weight shifted to the balls of his feet. His arms hung loose at his sides and his eyes began tracking every movement in the room. The biomonitors exploded with activity. Minho's heart rate increased dramatically, but maintained a steady rhythm. His breathing became deep and controlled, drawing more oxygen into his lungs. His brain activity spiked in areas associated with combat and survival. Most incredible of all, his body began producing the mysterious chemical compounds that had been detected during the pirate attack. These substances flooded his bloodstream, enhancing his physical capabilities in ways that seemed impossible. Dr. Yoon Seo, who was monitoring the equipment, called out the readings in amazement. Muscle efficiency increased by 60%, reaction time improved by 40%, pain sensitivity decreased by 70%. Neural processing speed doubled. Minho began moving through the aggressive training drones like he was dancing. He did not fight them so much as flow around them. His movements were smooth and efficient, wasting no energy or motion. When a drone came at him from the left, he sidestepped without seeming to look at it. When another approached from behind, he spun and disabled it with a gentle tap that somehow shut down all its systems. The most impressive part was how calm he remained throughout the entire demonstration. His face showed no fear or anger, just focused concentration. His breathing stayed controlled and his movements remained fluid. Ambassador Kelthran watched in complete silence as this ordinary maintenance worker defeated training drones that were designed to challenge experienced soldiers. The human made it look effortless, as if he was simply walking through a garden. When the last drone powered down, Minho stood in the center of the room, breathing heavily but smiling. The transformation began to reverse itself, his body chemistry slowly returning to normal levels. Dr. Hyunwoo approached Minho and asked how he felt. The young man grinned and said he felt amazing, like he could take on anything in the universe. The adrenaline and other chemicals were still affecting his mood, making him feel confident and powerful. The room was completely quiet as the alien observers tried to process what they had witnessed. They had expected to see a simple demonstration instead. They had seen proof that humans possessed abilities that defied their understanding of biology. Ambassador Kelthran's skepticism had completely disappeared. He approached Dr. Hyun-woo with a mixture of respect and concern. The implications of what he had seen were staggering. If all humans could transform like this, then humanity was not the peaceful species everyone thought they were. They were potential warriors who could become dangerous at a moment's notice. Dr. Hyun-woo explained that every human possessed this ability. Some transformed faster than others and some more intensely. But the basic capability was universal. It was built into their genetics through millions of years of evolution on a dangerous world. The ambassador asked if humans could control the transformation. Dr. Hyun-woo admitted that it was largely automatic. The human body sensed threats and responded accordingly. Most humans could not stop the transformation once it began. As the demonstration ended, the alien observers began discussing what they had learned. Some were fascinated by the human ability. Others were concerned about the implications. Several requested additional tests to learn more about how the transformation worked. Ambassador Kelthran realized that he would need to completely revise his assessment of humanity. They were not just another peaceful species. They were survivors who had developed extraordinary abilities to protect themselves. The test had succeeded in proving that humans could indeed release combat chemicals instantly when threatened. Now the galaxy would have to decide what to do with this knowledge. The demonstration had been a mistake. Dr. Hyun-woo realized this too late as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The news about human combat abilities had spread to every corner of known space, and not everyone had good intentions. Within week 3, different criminal organizations had attempted to capture humans for study. The syndicate wanted to extract the combat chemicals and sell them as military enhancements. The collectors desired human specimens for their illegal fighting. Rings the worst were the Crimson Fleet, who specialized in slavery and experimentation. Captain Jae Sung-moon was commanding a small transport vessel called the Star Wanderer when the emergency call came through. He had been ferrying supplies between human colonies, a peaceful job that suited his quiet nature. The message was broken up by interference, but the meaning was clear. Research Station Delta 7 was under attack by the Crimson Fleet. The station held 37 humans, including entire families with children. Jae-sung felt his heart rate begin to increase as he processed the information. His body was already starting to prepare for the threat, even though he was still hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the danger. His co-pilot Eun-ji Yang was studying the sensor readings. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as she tried to get more details about the attack. Her breathing was becoming deeper and more controlled. The Crimson Fleet had brought 12 warships to attack one research station. It was massive overkill unless they had a specific purpose. The fleet was known for capturing valuable specimens and selling them to the highest bidder. Jae-sung realized with growing horror that the humans on the station were not just victims, they were the target. The Crimson Fleet had heard about human combat abilities and wanted to study them, capture them, and probably sell them. The Star Wanderer carried only 6 humans against 12 enemy warships. The math was simple and terrifying. They were completely outmatched in every possible way. Their small transport had minimal weapons and no armor. But the 37 people on Delta 7 included families that Jae-sung knew personally. Dr. Hae-rin Choi was there with her teenage daughter. Young researcher Da-yoon Kim had just started her career studying alien botany. Elder scholar Woo-jin Park was supposed to retire next month. Yoon-ji looked at the tactical display and shook her head. There was no way they could fight 12 warships and win. Even if they called for help, the nearest military ships were days away. The people on Delta 7 would be captured or killed long before rescue arrived. Jae-sung felt the familiar sensation of his body, chemistry beginning to change. His muscles felt more responsive. His vision became sharper, and his mind started focusing on solutions instead of problems. The plan that formed in his head was desperate and probably suicidal. They would approach the station during the attack, dock quickly, and evacuate as many people as possible before the Crimson Fleet could stop them. It would require perfect timing, incredible luck, and the kind of courage that only came from the chemical transformation flowing through his bloodstream. He could feel his fear fading away, replaced by grim determination. The other humans on his ship were experiencing the same changes. Engineer Tae-ho Kim was checking their engines with the focused intensity of someone whose life depended on perfect performance. Communications Officer Soo-bin Lee was monitoring enemy frequencies with supernatural concentration. As they approached Research Station Delta 7, the scope of the attack became clear. The Crimson Fleet had positioned their ships in a perfect sphere around the station, cutting off all escape routes. Explosions bloomed across the station's hull as the attackers systematically disabled defensive systems. Several escape pods had been launched, but they were being captured by tractor beams before they could get away. Jae-sung could see the enemy ships were not trying to destroy the station. They were being careful to minimize damage, which confirmed his worst fears. They wanted the humans alive and intact. The lead Crimson Fleet vessel was a massive dreadnought covered in weapon systems and tractor beam arrays. Smaller attack ships darted around the station like predators circling wounded prey. Yoon-ji pointed to the tactical display showing the enemy formation. There was a small gap between two of the attack ships, barely wide enough for their transport to slip through. It would only be open for a few seconds. The approach would be incredibly dangerous. They would have to fly directly through the battle zone while enemy ships were firing in all directions. One stray shot would destroy their lightly armored transport. But Jae-sung's enhanced reflexes and combat-focused mind saw possibilities that would have been invisible to him. In a normal state, he could thread the needle between enemy ships and reach the station's docking bay. The transformation was affecting everyone on his crew in different ways. Tae-ho had become absolutely focused on engine performance, pushing their systems beyond normal safety limits. Soo-bin was intercepting enemy communications and jamming their coordination signals. Medical Officer Jin-woo Park was preparing emergency medical supplies with the efficiency of someone who had trained for combat medicine his entire life. His hands moved with practiced precision, even though he had never treated battle wounds before. As they began their approach run, Jae-sung felt completely calm, despite the desperate nature of their mission. The combat chemicals had eliminated his fear and doubt, leaving only determination and focus. The Star Wanderer accelerated toward the gap between enemy ships, moving faster than a transport vessel was supposed to be able to go. Tae-ho had somehow coaxed extra power from their engines without triggering any safety systems. Enemy sensors detected their approach and weapons began turning toward them. But the Crimson Fleet ships were focused on the station and did not react quickly enough to the small transport racing toward them. Jae-sung flew through the gap with centimeters to spare, feeling the heat from enemy weapon systems washing over their hull. The transport shuddered as it passed through the energy fields generated by the massive warships. They were through the outer perimeter, but now came the hardest part. They had to dock with the station while it was under attack and somehow evacuate people faster than the enemy could capture them. The station's docking bay was damaged but still functional. Jae-sung could see figures moving inside human researchers who were probably trying to organize an evacuation as they approached the docking port. He realized that the people inside were not acting like typical civilians. They were moving with purpose and coordination that seemed impossible for scientists and researchers. Through the viewports, he could see Dr. Hyrin Choi directing other humans with calm authority. Her movements were controlled and efficient despite the chaos around her. Young Da-yoon Kim was helping elderly researchers move toward the docking bay. Her strength seemed enhanced as she easily carried equipment that should have required two people. Even old Woo-jin Park was contributing, using his walking stick to point out safe paths through the damaged corridors. His mind was clearly sharp and focused despite his age. Jae-sung realized that everyone on the station was experiencing their own combat transformation. The threat to their lives had triggered the same chemical changes that were affecting his own crew. The humans on Delta 7 were not helpless victims waiting to be rescued. They were survivors who had already begun fighting back against their attackers in their own way. As the Star Wanderer docked with the research station, Jae-sung knew that the real battle was just beginning. The Crimson Fleet thought they were capturing weak civilians, but they were about to learn what humans became when their survival was threatened. The docking bay of Research Station Delta 7 was complete chaos when Captain Jae-sung Moon and his crew arrived. Crimson Fleet soldiers were everywhere, their insect-like bodies covered in natural armor that gleamed under the emergency lighting. Enemy soldiers moved with the confidence of predators who had done this many times before. They herded captured human researchers toward their transport ships using shock weapons to keep everyone in line. Jae-sung counted at least 20 Crimson Fleet soldiers in the main bay, each one twice the size of an average human. Their mandibles clicked with satisfaction as they organized their valuable prisoners. The humans being captured were not fighting back in any obvious way. They moved when directed and did not resist the soldiers. But something about their body language seemed different to Jae-sung's enhanced perception. Dr. Hai-rin Choi, the elderly botanist, was near the center of the group. Her hands were bound, but her posture was straight and alert. Her eyes tracked every movement around her with predatory focus. Young researcher Dayun. Kim stood beside her looking frightened, but her breathing was deep and controlled. Her muscles seemed coiled with potential energy despite her apparent helplessness. The Crimson Fleet commander was a massive creature called Vextok, who stood over 3 meters tall. His natural armor was scarred from countless battles, and his 4 arms each ended in razor-sharp claws. Vextok grabbed Dae-yoon, roughly lifting her off the ground to examine her more closely. His translator crackled as he spoke with satisfaction about finding such a perfect specimen for their experiments. That was the moment everything changed. The transformation that swept through the captured humans was visible even from across the bay. Their shoulders straightened, their breathing patterns shifted, and their eyes became intensely focused. Dr. Hai-rin moved first, despite being in her 60s and having spent her life studying plants. She somehow slipped out of her restraints and grabbed a piece of metal debris from the damaged docking bay. Her movements were fluid and purposeful as she approached the nearest soldier. The Crimson Fleet warrior was twice her size and heavily armed, but she moved around him like he was standing still. The metal bar in her hands became a weapon as she struck at weak points in the soldier's armor. Her targeting was perfect, hitting joints and gaps that she should not have been able to see. Other humans began their own attacks using whatever they could find as weapons. Woo Jin Park, the elderly mathematician, used his walking stick to trip a soldier before delivering a strike that dropped the armored warrior instantly. Min Jun, barely out of university, somehow ended up facing 3 soldiers at once. His enhanced reflexes made their attacks seem slow and clumsy. He ducked under claws that could have killed him and used their own momentum against them. The Crimson Fleet soldiers had expected to fight frightened civilians. Instead, they found themselves battling humans whose bodies had become perfectly adapted for combat. The transformation had turned researchers into warriors. Young Da-yoon twisted out of Vextok's grip with impossible strength and agility. The massive commander tried to grab her again, but she moved like water flowing around his clumsy attempts. Dr. Yunseo, the xenobiologist who had never hurt anything in her life, was systematically disabling enemy weapons. Her knowledge of alien anatomy let her target vulnerable spots that the soldiers did not even know they had. The humans moved like a coordinated pack without needing to communicate. They covered each other's weaknesses and supported each other's attacks. Their millions of years of evolution had prepared them for exactly this situation. Jae-sung and his crew joined the battle from behind, but they quickly realized they were not needed. The researchers had already turned the tables. On their captors, the Crimson Fleet's carefully planned raid was falling apart. Engineer Tae-ho Kim used his technical knowledge to overload enemy equipment, causing weapons to explode in their users' hands. Communications officer Soo-bin Lee had somehow taken control of the station's internal systems, trapping soldiers in corridors. The Crimson Fleet soldiers' natural armor meant nothing against human ingenuity, enhanced by combat transformation. The humans found ways to attack that the aliens had never encountered before. Vextok roared in frustration as his forces fell back toward their ships. He could not understand how his experienced warriors were being defeated by what should have been helpless prisoners. The commander had fought dozens of species across the galaxy. Some were naturally strong, others were fast. Many had dangerous natural weapons, but none of them could transform like humans did. Dr. Hayrin approached one of the fallen soldiers and calmly explained what was happening. Her voice was steady despite the chaos around her. She told the wounded alien that humans had evolved on a death world. She described how Earth was a planet where everything tried to kill everything else. Predators, natural disasters, poisonous plants, and deadly weather had shaped humanity for millions of years. The chemical transformation was their species' answer to constant threats. When danger appeared, human bodies would instantly adapt, becoming stronger, faster, and more dangerous. Min Jun demonstrated this by facing down a soldier twice his size. The young man's enhanced strength let him grab the alien's arm and throw the massive warrior across the room. What made the transformation even more effective was that it affected the mind as well as the body. Humans became fearless, focused, and completely determined to survive. Dayun showed this as she calmly walked through weapon fire that should have terrified her. The combat chemicals in her bloodstream had eliminated her fear response entirely. The Crimson Fleet soldiers began to panic as they realized their prey had become predators. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning decisively. Vextok ordered a full retreat, but it was too late. Several of his warriors were down, and the humans were advancing with coordinated precision. His shock weapons and natural armor advantages had been completely neutralized. Old Wujin Park cornered one of the retreating soldiers and explained in simple terms why the Crimson Fleet had made a terrible mistake. They had tried to capture members of a species that became more dangerous when threatened. The mathematician's walking stick had somehow become a devastating weapon in his enhanced hands. He moved with the grace of a martial arts master despite his age and peaceful nature. Dr. Yun Seo was treating wounded humans with supplies she had improvised from the station's laboratory. Her hands worked with supernatural precision as the combat transformation enhanced her medical knowledge. The battle was over in less than 10 minutes. The Crimson Fleet soldiers who could still move were retreating to their ships. The humans had not just defended themselves, they had completely routed experienced slavers. Vextok made it back to his command ship, but left behind half his raiding force. He could not believe that simple researchers had defeated his warriors so easily. As the enemy ships began to withdraw, Jae Sung realized that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had seen humans as peaceful and harmless. Now they would know the truth. The transformation that had saved the research station would have consequences far beyond this single battle. Word would spread that humans became incredibly dangerous when threatened. The researchers slowly returned to normal as the immediate threat passed. Their body chemistry began to stabilize, and their enhanced abilities faded back to normal levels. But the memory of what they had become would stay with them forever. They had discovered that inside every human was a warrior waiting to emerge when survival demanded it. Dr. Hayrin looked around at her colleagues with new understanding. They were all still the same people who loved learning and discovery. But they were also something more when they needed to be. The battle at Research Station Delta 7 would become legendary across the galaxy. The day that peaceful human civilians defeated one of the most feared military forces in known space. The Crimson Fleet's reputation was destroyed by their defeat at the hands of researchers and students. The story would spread to every species, showing that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. 3 weeks after the battle at Research Station Delta 7, the entire galaxy was talking about what had happened. The recordings of humans transforming from peaceful researchers into coordinated fighters played on every news network across known space. The footage was impossible to ignore. Dr. Hayrin Choi, a 60-year-old botanist moving like a trained assassin, young Da-eun Kim, a graduate student defeating armored warriors twice her size, old Wujin Park using a walking stick like a master. Weapon criminal organizations that had planned to capture humans for study suddenly canceled their operations. The syndicate issued an official statement declaring humans off-limits for all activities. The collectors removed bounties on human specimens. The Crimson Fleet practically disappeared from known space after their humiliating defeat. Commander Vextok was reportedly stripped of his rank and exiled. The most feared slavers in the galaxy had been broken by university researchers Dr. Hyun Woo. Kim found himself at the center of galactic attention. Every species wanted to understand how humans could transform so dramatically. He was invited to address the Galactic Council in the most important session in decades. The council chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of different species. The atmosphere was tense as delegates tried to understand what humanity's abilities meant for galactic politics. Some species were fascinated by human biology. They wanted to study the transformation and possibly develop similar abilities for their own people. Scientists requested permission to examine human volunteers. Others were terrified by what they had seen. Species that had previously dismissed humans as weak and harmless suddenly viewed them as potential threats. Military advisors recommended treating all humans as dangerous. A few opportunistic species saw possibilities for alliance. They wanted human protection for their own worlds, or human soldiers for their conflicts. Several offers of military partnerships arrived daily. Dr. Hyun-woo stood before the assembled delegates, knowing that his words would shape humanity's future relationship with the rest of the galaxy. The pressure was enormous, but his scientists' training kept him focused. He began by explaining the biological basis of the transformation. Human bodies had evolved on Earth, a planet where survival required constant adaptation to deadly threats. Everything from massive predators to global disasters had shaped their development. The chemical transformation was not magic or technology, it was evolution in action. Millions of years of natural selection had created a species that could instantly adapt to dangerous situations. When humans perceived threats, their bodies flooded with compounds that enhanced every physical capability. Strength, speed, reflexes, coordination, and pain tolerance all improved dramatically. The transformation also affected the mind, eliminating fear and doubt while enhancing focus and determination. Humans became single-minded in their pursuit of survival. What made this even more remarkable was that every human possessed this ability. It was not limited to trained soldiers or special individuals. Any human anywhere could transform when threatened. Council leader Mordon asked the question that everyone was thinking. Were humans a warrior species that had been hiding their true nature? Did they plan to use these abilities for conquest? Dr. Hyun-woo's answer was carefully considered. Humans were not warriors by choice. They were survivors by necessity. The transformation existed because their ancestors needed it to live on a death world. He explained that humans preferred peaceful activities like art, science exploration, and building civilizations. The combat transformation only activated when survival was at stake. The audience captain, Jae Sung-moon, watched the proceedings with interest. He had become famous across the galaxy for his rescue mission at Delta 7. Various species had offered him command positions in their military forces, but he preferred flying transport ships pilot. Soo-jin Park sat beside him, equally uncomfortable with celebrity status. She had received requests to demonstrate human combat abilities for entertainment purposes. All such requests had been politely declined. The testimony continued as Dr. Hyun-woo addressed specific concerns about human intentions. He emphasized that the transformation came with built-in limitations. It was defensive, not offensive. Humans did not randomly attack others or seek out conflicts. The chemical changes only occurred in response to genuine threats. When the danger passed, humans returned to their normal, peaceful state. Ambassador Kelthran rose from his seat representing the hegemony. His previous skepticism had been completely replaced by respect and caution. He announced that his species wanted to establish a formal alliance with humanity. Similar offers came from dozens of other species. The galaxy had seen what humans became when threatened, and many worlds wanted that protection for themselves. The council session continued for hours as representatives asked detailed questions about human abilities. Some worried about the implications for existing power structures. Others saw opportunities for mutual benefit. Dr. Yoon Seo provided scientific data showing that the transformation was purely biological. There were no technological enhancements or artificial modifications involved. It was simply how human bodies worked. Young researcher Min Jun-oh testified about his experience during the battle. He described how the transformation felt from the inside. The sudden clarity of thought, enhanced awareness, and complete absence of fear. He emphasized that the experience was not pleasurable or addictive. Humans did not seek out dangerous situations to trigger the transformation, most preferred to avoid conflicts entirely. The questioning revealed important details. About human society, Earth had developed strong cultural prohibitions against unnecessary violence. The transformation was seen as a last resort, not a first option. Human children were taught from an early age to use words instead of force to resolve conflicts. The combat abilities were acknowledged but not celebrated. Violence was something humans did when they had to, not because they wanted to. As the session neared its end, Council leader Mordan asked about the future. How would this knowledge change relationships between humans and other species? Dr. Hyunwoo's response was thoughtful and diplomatic. He hoped that understanding human abilities would lead to better cooperation, not increased fear or suspicion. He reminded the Council that humans had been living peacefully among other species for decades. The transformation had always existed, but humans had never used it aggressively against anyone. The real revelation was not that humans could become dangerous, but that they chose not to be dangerous most of the time. The combat transformation was proof of human restraint, not human aggression. After the formal session ended, smaller groups of delegates gathered to discuss specific arrangements. The Traders' Union wanted human escorts for their merchant ships. The frontier worlds requested human colonists who could defend themselves. Military alliances were proposed with humans providing defensive capabilities in exchange for advanced technology or favorable trade agreements. Several species offered to share their scientific knowledge. Dr. Hyunwoo met with his team to discuss the implications of the day's events. They had successfully explained human abilities, but the galaxy's reaction was still uncertain. Captain Jae Sung expressed concern about humans being seen primarily as warriors instead of the teachers. Explorers and builders, they preferred to be pilot. Su Jin worried that other species might try to provoke humans into transforming for their own purposes. Combat abilities could become a liability, if not properly understood. Dr. Yoon Seo pointed out that scientific collaboration could benefit everyone. Human knowledge of survival biology combined with alien technology might lead to breakthroughs in medicine and enhancement. As they left the council chambers, the human delegation carried with them the responsibility of representing their entire species. The galaxy now knew that ordinary humans could become extraordinary fighters in seconds. Knowledge would change everything. Some species would approach humans with new respect. Others might keep their distance out of caution. A few might still see opportunities for exploitation. But one thing was certain: the universe would never underestimate humans again. The quiet species from the small blue planet had revealed that they carried within them the potential for both peaceful exploration and devastating combat. The choice of which path to take would always be theirs, triggered by the ancient chemistry that had kept their species alive for millions of years. The galaxy had learned that humans release combat chemicals instantly when threatened. What they were still learning was that this made humans the most dangerous species to threaten and the most valuable species to have as friends.